All right, welcome back to Unqualified Analysis. Today, it's a classic off-season episode. I got to check when the draft is because I'm stupid and I don't know exactly when that thing is coming up. But yeah, we're in the midst of the off-season right now, folks. So yeah, we'll touch on a little bit of NCAA tournament and stuff to start off, and then head into a couple headlines, get you out of here with the semi-short episode, so long as I don't rant and rave about the state of college athletics for too long. No real headlines about that this time around. So, yeah, let's get into it here real quick. Obviously, starting off with the NCAA. Zach Edey, the way the officials officiate him is just ridiculous. It is crazy. Excuse me, sorry. Had to clear out the disgust from my throat there to a certain extent, but yeah, I mean everyone's pretty up in arms about that. Scored 40 in the Elite Eight. That was pretty awesome against Tennessee. Dalton Connect, it'll be overshadowed, but 37. Shout out to him as well. Ballin' ass white boy doing the Lord's work over there for sure. But yeah, I mean I just hope, because obviously in the Elite Eight, NC State did the Lord's work as well. They beat Duke, knocked them out. Everyone laughed in Duke's face. Who is it? Burns. Not Brian Burns. He's a pass rusher. Not Jimmy Burns. That's just simply not his name. Yeah, I can't believe I forgot the dude's first name. Burns. DJ Burns. My goodness. I don't know how the hell I forgot his name, but you know what? No one else is forgetting his name because he's an absolute star. He knocked the Dukies out of the tournament. He's talking trash to the fans, talking about your season is over, doing the throat slash motion. Love it. You just love to see it. Talking back to those absolute dorks up there in the Dookie land, wherever the hell Duke is, I forget. My brain is scrambled eggs right now. I got back late last night, woke up early this morning, and now I'm just direct injecting some caffeine in the old bloodstream here, which, by the way, speaking of which, let's get a gulp of this real quick. Refreshing. Either way, so NC State beats Duke. Purdue beats Tennessee. So now we got the people's champion, DJ Burns, versus the villain of the Final Four, Zach Edey, who, I mean, if we're talking about villains, the real villain should be the refs here. I mean, you say what you will about them. I mean, it's not Zach Edey's fault that he's getting all these ticky-tack fouls called on guys that are guarding him. It's the ref's fault for all the ticky-tack fouls on guys that are guarding him. The point is here, those were some ticky-tack ass fouls. I mean, there's no two ways around it. I hope for the sake of the viewing experience, because I think either way, this is probably going to be more of a low-scoring affair, because, Purdue's built around Zach Edey, NC State, especially as the year has gone on, as we've gotten into, the conference championship run, and then going into the NCAA tournament, the team's been built around DJ Burns, kind of a bigger body guy, everyone's favorite large champion, large king, if you will. So we're going to be getting a pretty low-scoring game as is. I just ask that for just one game, please, for the next two games, because we'll get to it here in just a second. But for at least this next game between Edey and DJ Burns, can we just swallow the whistle? Like, can we just only call fouls that are egregiously obvious? None of this ticky-tack bullshit that was getting called on Tennessee all day yesterday. I mean, he fouled out, at least one or two of those big men for Tennessee. Every single one of the big men on that team, pretty much, that was in the rotation was in foul trouble throughout that one. It's not something you want to watch. I don't want to watch a whole bunch of free throws in a game. I want to watch big bodies banging into each other in the most sensual and awesome way possible. Consensually, of course. But yeah, let's just let the boys play, as I'm wont to say. Let the boys play. That being said, it seems like Purdue's probably going to win that one, but you never know, man. NC State, team of destiny, 11 seed, stole a bid to get in. Now they got hot and they're all the way in the Final Four. Who's to say they can't get all the way to the championship? But on the other side of the bracket, filling out the Final Four, we had UConn and Illinois. And I'll tell you what, that was a hard played first half by Illinois. Hard played first half. You guys got a lot to be proud of there. And then to end off the first half and go into the second half, UConn reeled off a 30-0 run, and it was over before it was even midway through the second half. It was clear very quickly that UConn was going to win that game. They end up winning by 24, 25 points, something like that. Just utterly dominated Illinois, stifled them in the second half. And yeah, they've absolutely walked to the Final Four. They've won, I mean, really, you go back to last year's NCAA tournament, they've won every single game from the 2023 tournament to the 2024 tournament by double digits, many of those by 20-plus points. They are a machine right now, the runaway favorites to win the national title. So they are in the Final Four, with ease, that is. And with the other Final Four matchup on that side of the bracket, you know, a little bit more competitive, if you will. It was Alabama versus, who did Alabama play in that game? It wasn't a team I picked. It wasn't a team I picked to get there. I'm a bad basketball fan. I'll tell you that right now. I have no clue. I just totally scrubbed that from my memory because I know, well, first and foremost, Alabama won. It took them a lot to get that win, and it was an entertaining game to say the least. I mean, Alabama, they can score the hell out of the ball, and they do not play a lick of defense, which is just a fun formula for some good basketball in the tournament time. Not necessarily a formula to win, but it's fun basketball to say the least. You cannot deny the fun factor that goes into an Alabama basketball game. But we'll see what happens there. Unfortunately, it would appear. Yeah, it would appear, though, that the NCAA tournament is not coming up on my phone at the moment. So that's cool. That's cool. Really leaves me in an awkward spot. And I'm shocked, utterly appalled, quite frankly, that it hasn't popped up on my phone just yet. But, here we are. Here we are, man. Clemson. I don't know how I forgot Clemson. The other sort of Cinderella type of team. They were a 6th seed, so less of a Cinderella. But, getting to the Elite Eight as a 6th seed, you had to get some upsets to get there. So credit to Clemson for doing just that. But came up against Alabama. Alabama wins 89-82, and they are in the Final Four. So we got UConn versus Alabama. And I don't know a whole lot about college basketball, folks, but I know UConn can score, but they can also defend. Top 10 defense in the entire nation. Alabama can score. However, they cannot defend. And from what I remember, they don't have the greatest size in the world. And last I checked, there's a 7'2", pushing 7'3" behemoth in the middle of the floor for UConn by the name of Donovan Clingan, who absolutely dominated Illinois yesterday. Who I would imagine is going to dominate the Alabama Crimson Tide in the Final Four. Really, the only glimmer of hope for Alabama to get into the championship game is for them to get red hot from the outside, which they have a propensity to do. I mean, they got some real good shooters on that team, headlined by Mark Sears, a guy that's been there for quite some time. I love an undersized guy in college basketball that'll just stay there for 3 or 4 years because the draft prospects. I mean, there's a limiting factor when you're that size, when you're like, 5'10", 6 foot, that it is what it is. Your draft prospects are only going to get so high unless you're like a Kemba Walker. Even Kemba Walker, I think, was like 6'2", though. So, I mean, those guys have a propensity to stay a while. It is a big reason why I'm excited that Josh Hubbard is a Mississippi State Bulldog, back for year 2, by the way. He just announced that on the Twitter sphere today, so hopefully that's not an April Fool's joke. But you know what? If it is, that's cruel. that's pretty cruel, my guy. But yeah, I mean, Alabama has a puncher's chance. I'll give them that. Again, if they get hot, they can keep up with UConn, make it a close game, and if it's a close game at the end, who knows what happens. UConn hasn't really played a close game in the postseason the last 2 years, essentially. So, we'll see. Well, it's all a wait-and-see sort of game. Looking forward to the Final Four, though. And by the way, mentioned a little future I put on for the winner of the NCAA tournament. By the way, still alive. One of those 4 teams. So I'll let y'all guess which one it is. But in the meantime, 10 minutes, that's a good enough time for college basketball. So let me get another big old gulp of this here ice-cold caffeinated beverage. I lied. That was like 4 gulps. They're good gulps, though. I tell you what, man, I'm feeling it. The direct injection of caffeine into my bloodstream is just giving me life. I tell you what. Went a little Australian there for a second. All right, let's just get into the headlines. Nothing I really missed last week. I guess we had the Kim Mulkey article drop, which, I mean, it wasn't super controversial. I mean, it was a lot of rehashes of stuff we already kind of heard rumblings about. Like, I think the worst part of the Kim Mulkey article, which, by the way, hand up, I'm not paying for the Washington Post because I would only buy it for this one article and then never look at it again. That's just wasted money in my opinion. So I got some summaries from, ESPN, saw some quotes from here and there. So I mean, the main thing that was highlighted that kind of looks bad on Kim Mulkey is like an alleged sort of, I guess it's a different treatment of players of gay identity, I suppose you would call it. There was one player whose name escapes me. She got suspended by Kim Mulkey. Kind of attributes that partially to, her sexual orientation. Again, that's one of those, and I don't want to just outright discount the story because that's her truth. She gets to say her truth. And it's hard to verify one way or the other because there's so much gray area in that sort of situation. But she says that was, a major contributing factor to her indefinite suspension pretty much, and that suspension pretty much ended her career. So there is that. The one thing that I will say objectively looks really bad on Kim Mulkey is that she had a falling out with Brittany Griner because it's well documented over the last, decade or so. She was saying to Brittany Griner, like, hey, man, you should hide your sexual orientation. Don't let people know you like women, which there is also the Baylor factor of this as well. I don't think Baylor gets enough credit for being the crazy Baptist institution that it is. And if you know anything about Baptist, that comes with a whole can of worms. It just kind of depends on what kind of Baptist church you decide to go to, I suppose. But that particular Baptist institution is not the most inclusive, let's just say it. I have no idea how they don't get more shit for that. Really, the only shit from Baylor was the heinous stuff that happened under Art Briles, pretty much. But outside of that, it's not like they're squeaky clean in other areas. So there is the Baylor factor that goes into this for sure. But also, the player I referenced earlier that got the indefinite suspension ended her career, essentially, with that suspension. Kim Mulkey said that it wasn't a good look, quote unquote, for the player to be walking around campus with a woman. So, yeah, there is that. But in addition to the stuff with Brittany Griner, which has already been well documented, well storied, she tried to get an ESPN reporter fired for it when they first reported it back in way back in the day. I think over a decade ago, whenever that came out, and Kim Mulkey called up ESPN to try and get Kate Fagan fired. That's, that is also what you could come to expect from Kim Mulkey. Besides the point, though, the shit that really looks bad on Kim Mulkey, though, is when Brittany Griner was detained in Russia. Just based on a falling out that they had beef with each other. They didn't talk anymore. And one, glaring theme in the article with the Washington Post is that Kim Mulkey holds a grudge like no other, and couldn't put that grudge aside just to say, hey, Russia should release Brittany Griner when she was detained for over 200 days in a penal colony, essentially, on the outskirts of Russia. That's really the one part there. A lot of the other stuff is kind of hearsay, it seems like, and there was some stuff that was more on the glowing side, like, maniacal competitor, all that sort of stuff. Really good college basketball coach. I don't think anyone's saying any different. You don't win as many national titles as she's won without being a fantastic college basketball coach. It's just, that not saying anything about Brittany Griner, seemingly over an old grudge that she just cannot bury, is a terrible look. There's no two ways about it. That just kind of is what it is. Outside of that, though, it's a lot of hearsay. It's a lot of conjecture. Not really a whole lot of concrete stuff. Apparently, she hasn't talked to her father in 37 years. That's wild. I don't know what her dad did. That wasn't part of the article, I suppose. Her dad's been trying to get back into her life for a long time, and she has just rebuffed all attempts to do so. Mulkey apparently had a falling out with her sister. Again, not specified what happened there, but they haven't talked since that falling out. I think like over a decade ago since that happened. So, I mean, Kim Mulkey can hold a grudge like no one's business right now. And by the way, she is also in the Elite Eight, squaring off in the rematch against Iowa tonight as I'm recording this. So that should be a dandy of a matchup. I mean, I didn't talk about it enough there, but the women's Elite Eight, man, they got some stuff going on. I mean, UConn with Paige Beckers. You got USC with that dynamite freshman, Juju Watkins. You got the star-powered Iowa, obviously, with Caitlin Clark, NCAA's all-time leading scorer. LSU rematching against him with everything that goes with LSU, with Kim Mulkey, Angel Reese being an absolute pest out there. I was thinking about this earlier today. Angel Reese is kind of like the Draymond Green of women's college basketball right now. I mean, she's just an absolute pest, kind of a loose cannon, disrespectful at certain points. But I'll tell you what, I think her teammates actually like her. By the way, Flo J. Johnson's not a bad player as well. And we got, all sorts of star-studded talent out there in the women's Elite Eight. So, I mean, it's a good time. It's a good time, man. I may throw that on while I'm doing some editing later after this whole thing is over. But yeah, as far as what the final verdict from the Kim Mulkey thing, she said she wasn't going to read it. She was going to let her lawyers do that. I don't think anything's lawsuit worthy there, but like we just said, Kim Mulkey holds a grudge like no one else on this planet apparently. So maybe she does decide to pursue legal recourse. To me, seems like it would be a massive waste of legal fees, but more power to you if you decide to do it, Kim. But there you go. There's my Kim Mulkey update for you. Overall, the article is a meh. Just a meh. Nothing really explosive coming out of there. Nothing really revelatory. Just kind of confirmation of things we already kind of knew and expected with the one black eye of the Brittany Griner situation. Outside of that, we move on. Nothing really fireable there for that one. She's going to be at LSU for a long, long time. Mark my words on that one. And we're going straight from that. It's quite a serious start here, man. I'll tell you what. I'm just going to get this out of the way because it happened today while I was at work. Rest in peace to Vontae Davis, former cornerback with Miami Dolphins, then got traded to the Colts on a famous Hard Knocks video where his first reaction after being told he was being traded from the Miami Dolphins to the Indianapolis Colts is that he had to call his grandma. Just an all-time classic guy. Goes from the Colts to the Bills. Has an all-time sort of retirement where he comes in at halftime and just says, "I'm out. It's a young man's game, dog. I'm out of here." Oh, just an all-time great personality. I don't think anyone I've seen around social media or anything I've listened to has said anything but kind words about the guy that was Vontae Davis. Just a tough day for the football community, man. And there's no cause of death. Frankly, it's not really our business to know. But, guy dies at 35. That's way too young. Came out of nowhere pretty much. And yeah, it's a tough day. It's a tough day. It's not like he was an all-time great player. All-time great personality, though. He will be sorely missed by his friends, his family, his former teammates. So yeah, rest in peace to Vontae Davis. Tough one to kind of throw a wrench in the day. All right, so from there, get out of the sad stuff. Let's get into some updates from the past week, mostly in the NFL. Yeah, pretty much exclusively in the NFL as of right now. But so let's pop this bad boy open. Got a couple headlines for you, and then this is shaping up to be a pretty short show. So I'll get you out of here in due order. All right, so first and foremost, got a summary of NFL rule changes. There were a couple at the league meetings, the owners' meetings last week. First and foremost, the owners approved the new kickoff rule that will transform the play, and essentially, and I know I'm going to miss some stuff here, so bear with me here. It really, again, completely transforms the play, but let me just lay it out for you. So the kicker is all by himself at his team's own 35. The coverage team is up, basically like 5 yards away from the return, like the blockers and all that sort of stuff. I want to say it's at like the 45, 50, something like that. Again, I probably should have been more well versed with this rule, but semantics, all that sort of stuff. The fact of the matter is the coverage team is right up there close to the return team. So kicker kicks off the ball. It's got to land within, I think the landing zone is from the 20-yard line to the goal line, I want to say. So if you kick it short of that and it lands on the ground, that is treated as a kickoff out of bounds. The ball comes out to the 40. If you kick it into the end zone for a touchback, originally it was supposed to be coming out to the 35 for a touchback. Some guys on the committee, owners, GMs, whatever, what have you, thought that 35 was too punitive, so they came to agreement on a 30-yard fair catch. Fair catch is gone. That's a good thing. Touchback rule. So if you kick it through the back of the end zone, it is a touchback that comes out to the 30. Importantly here, if the kicker kicks it into the end zone or it rolls into the end zone and it doesn't go out the back of the end zone, the returner has to physically touch the ball and down it in the end zone. There's no longer the rule where if it gets into the end zone and all it has to do is touches and that's a touchback. No. That's a live ball until the returner goes over there, physically downs the football, and then you can get a touchback that way. So with that, obviously encourages a lot more returns with the landing zone concept, the punitive touchback rule for the kicking team. So what happens when the returner catches the ball? So basically, we'll go back to the kicking. The guy kicks off, goes into the landing zone. The kicker kicks off. It goes into the landing zone. I believe, and don't quote me on this because I'm not entirely sure, I believe the coverage team can't move until the returner touches the ball. Then it is game on from there. I believe there's 2 returners back as well. So you get a lot of like creative concepts from there. But then it's just kind of from there, it works like a regular old sort of kick return play. I think the special teams coordinators who all came together to make this up, I mean, borrowed heavily from the XFL model of the kickoff. But I think they kind of estimated that it would be like 80%. That was the numbers I was hearing. 80% more returns based on what happened last season, or they're cutting down like 80% of the touchbacks. I can't remember which one it was. But yeah, I mean, it's going to lead to more returns, which is good. Since the coverage team is farther up, there's not going to be as many violent collisions, which the NFL is trying to get out of the game. It's going to look weird. And by the way, with this new model, there's going to be a lot more room for big plays on returns too. And since there's not going to be so much of a run-up that you're risking, massive injuries of guys going like just flying through from a long head start after kicking off the ball. Since you have less of that, you might see more star players that are dynamic in the return game back returning kicks once again, which will be a welcome sight. Like maybe you see a Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle sort of setup on the back end for the Dolphins or something along those lines. Cordero Patterson is going to get ample opportunities to return kicks once again, one of the most electric returners of all time on the kickoff. So overall, I think it's going to look weird, make no mistake about it. There was never going to be a perfect solution where we kept the kickoff looking exactly like it used to look. But all things considered, with the tools that they were given to work with, I think this is a good rule change. I think obviously the NFL has been angling towards completely eliminating the kickoff for several years now. They've just chipped away at it slowly but surely here with a raft of rule changes over the last decade or so. And yeah, I mean, now this at least makes it so it's a real play again. I think you're going to be seeing a lot more returns in this one, a lot more exciting plays just based on the potential to break one off in this sort of context. I'm looking forward to seeing how this thing works out. It's going to be confusing initially, especially with explaining everything I just explained to you, and I'm sure announcers will do it much better than I just did. But overall, I like that change. I think again, it's going to look weird, but I think it's going to end up being better for the game and the entertainment product as a whole, which NFL is in the entertainment business. So overall, I think it's a good rule change. Also, less major trade deadlines moving back to week 9. Was it week 8? Over the last, I don't know, several years, decades, however long that's been going on. It's back to week 9 now, so that's just, a little bit of a clerical change there. Probably getting a few more trades from teams that were in contention in week 8 or borderline contention week 8. They lose a game in week 8. Maybe they offload some players in week 9. Maybe you get a little bit more movement at the trade deadline. I don't know that it's going to be that much different. It's just, giving teams a little bit better idea of where their team where their team is at. Easy for me to say. Before they end up shipping somebody out or bringing someone in for that matter. And also hip drop tackle bullshit. I don't need to belabor that point. You all know my thoughts on that one. What the fuck are those defenders supposed to do? But yeah, I went on my rant about that last week, so staying mum on that. What I'm not staying mum on is that I need this caffeine right now. I'm about to directly inject it into my digestive tract. Hold up. Another couple forceful gulps. Forceful, powerful drinking of that sweet carbonated liquid that also contains quite a bit of sugar and caffeine. It'll get me through to the end of this. I'll tell you what, it'll get me through to the end of this. All right, so next headline up on the docket, we got the Panthers. They are signing defensive end Jadeveon Clowney. Does not have to wait nearly as long as he did last offseason. You may remember him signing just before training camp started up last offseason. This time around, after putting up tying his career high, actually, with 9.5 sacks with the Ravens last year, he is signing a 2-year, $20 million deal with the Panthers, with incentives to get up to $24 million. So, and I feel like this is a theme that we've seen with a lot of signings with the Panthers throughout the course of this offseason. Feels like there is a Panthers premium just based on the shit show that franchise is, that you're going to have to pay a little bit more to get a guy in the door than maybe someone with a competent organization or historically competent organization. Give the new regime a chance. We'll see. So there is that, and you can certainly see with Jadeveon Clowney. I think at this point, Jadeveon Clowney's career, $10 million a year is kind of rich. I mean, make no mistake about it. I think that is kind of the very top end of what the market had to offer for Jadeveon Clowney. Still, really solid player, underrated guy throughout the course of his career, just because he never quite lived up to the hype from the number 1 overall pick. Absolutely shredded the combine whenever he came out. Clear-cut number 1 guy, goes to the Houston Texans. Never quite gets the sack numbers. Like I just said, I mean, his career high is 9.5. He tied it last year. But always been way up there in pressure numbers. Just hasn't quite closed the deal. He's also been a monster at stopping the run throughout his entire career. Just an all-around solid player. And I think he gets kind of unfairly labeled a bust just because of the impossible hype that he had coming in. He was supposed to be an all-time great sort of edge rusher. Didn't end up panning out that way, but doesn't mean he didn't turn into a hell of a football player throughout the course of his career. So I think this can really only help the Panthers. I know Jadeveon Clowney is getting up there, but if he's got anything left in the tank, it's only going to help Giro Avero and that entire defense kind of keep things together and keep moving forward after they lose a couple pieces in free agency. I really like this pickup by him. Do I think the Panthers are going to win? Well, I'll ask you a counter question. Is David Tepper still the owner? Yes. Then the answer is no. Sorry about that. Poor Bryce Young, man. I hope for the best for that kid. I hope all the offensive line additions and the addition of Dave Canales as his head coach lead to something that is more conducive for a young, diminutive quarterback to maybe develop a little bit more. And maybe couldn't hurt to get another receiver in there in the draft. Just a thought. Just a thought. Would help if you had a first-round pick, but that ship has sailed. Thank you, Scott Fitterer. Anywho, let's go on from here. Rams are adding former Pro Bowl cornerback Tre'Davious White on a 1-year, $8.5 million deal with a potential to get up to 10 with incentives. You may remember Tre'Davious White last year, coming off of an ACL injury where he never quite looked the same. I think he might have had an Achilles as well, which for a cornerback, really not good, really not good. Really any sort of position where you need explosiveness, really quick change of speed. Achilles is kind of the kiss of death, and I don't want to misquote it. In fact, let me look it up right now just to make sure I'm not blowing shit out of my ass. Sorry for the very vivid metaphor for you. But let me see here. Tre'Davious White, Achilles. Yeah. So he had a torn Achilles in 2023. So this past season, he ended his season with an Achilles. I am hesitant to pay a guy $8.5 million, especially at a position like corner, coming off an Achilles injury. So that's a big risk for Les Snead and the Rams over there. If nothing else, though, I trust Les Snead at this point, man. I think he kind of played it fast and loose in those years surrounding that Super Bowl win that they had. But really, since then, and even throughout that entire time, he never really had a whole lot of top picks because of just the way that he was in win now mode. But the dude's been absolute money on mid to late round picks, man. I mean, just last year he had Puka Nacua. He's gotten a bevy of really good offensive linemen with mid round draft picks. I mean, hey, it helps to have high draft picks, don't get me wrong. But when you can hit on so many mid round guys, I mean, hey, it's understandable why you'd have the strategy of fuck them picks. I get it. I'm just, as far as the free agency is concerned, I don't know. They certainly need corners over there in LA, especially with the departure of Aaron Donald. I think and the departure of Aaron Donald and Raheem Morris, I think we touched on it last week. That is going to be a paradigm shifter on the defense for the LA Rams. It is going to be night and day sort of what that defense looks like just because of the gravity and the force that Aaron Donald has in the middle of that defense that they're just simply not going to have anymore. And with him leaving and Raheem Morris leaving, I'm interested to see how the defense bounces back. They need a lot of help at all levels, essentially, personnel-wise. So, I mean, hey, it's a position of need. They needed corners. I'm just not sure at this point in Tre'Davious White's career that I would be giving him $8.5 million. And I assume a lot of that is kind of incentive-laden. I doubt that it's $8.5 million totally guaranteed. That's just not how it would work for a player coming off an Achilles injury at an outside corner position. I'm interested to see how that works out. I'm kind of shaky on that one. Again, I don't feel warm and fuzzy about a cornerback coming off an Achilles playing on the outside against NFL wide receivers who are just running faster than they've ever run. So, yeah, good luck. Good luck. Hope it works out for you, Rams, but not too well. So hopefully the Vikings can get into this year. I didn't even believe it when I said it, folks. You know, let's just hope for a quarterback in the draft. Any hoozle, former Lions receiver Josh Reynolds is signing with the Broncos for 2 years, $14 million. Not a bad replacement for Jerry Jeudy, just considering what the production for Jerry Jeudy's been over the last couple of seasons, and for much, much less than Jerry Jeudy was asking for. I mean, if you remember, I think it was last week before, Jeudy signed that massive 3-year, like $54 million contract. I think it was 54. Could have been 56. I can't quite remember off the top of my head. Still, like $18 million a year, $17, $18 million a year. You get Josh Reynolds for $10 million less. And as far as production is concerned, it's not all that different. I mean, maybe there's a bit of a talent difference between Jerry Jeudy and Josh Reynolds. But I mean, Josh Reynolds kind of had a similar sort of production profile as what Jerry Jeudy had. It's just, it's a value play. When you're taking the largest dead cap hit in league history in Russell Wilson with that terrible contract that George Payton signed him to and is somehow still the GM of the Denver Broncos. That's kind of how you got to do. You got to pinch some pennies here and there, try and find some value propositions in the free agent market, and then hope you hit on a bunch of draft picks. But on the surface, I like this signing. It just kind of is a matter of where do they go at quarterback? Do they trade up for a J.J. McCarthy? Is Jarrett Stidham really going to be the guy? I think that the answer to that question kind of steers the direction of where this team is going this year and how Josh Reynolds, how anyone in that receiving core will end up doing this year. Cortland Sutton, really any of them end up doing, really dependent on that quarterback situation. So it's solid signing. Let's look at the next one here. Only got a couple more headlines before I get out of this bad boy. Welsh rugby star Louis Rees-Zammit. I hope I said that name right. He is signing with the Chiefs on a 3-year contract. Fairly cheap contract too, all things considered. Interesting pickup. I'll be very fascinated to see how he's used. I assume maybe mainly a special teams guy, but will his skills be utilized in the offense? Obviously, as a rugby guy, very used to doing those rugby type of plays where you offload the ball, you receive the ball if someone's offloading it to you, and you run from there. Seems like he has pretty good speed. I think he ran like a 4.45 or something like that. So, decent speed. See if he has football speed in pads, but on the surface, seems like a solid enough signing. It's a 3-year contract, but it's not that expensive. So, hey, might as well bring him in, see if he can use him as kind of a gadget player, put him on special teams. I feel like if nothing else, he's going to be a hell of a special teams player for you, just based on the rugby background. I think that's the main area where rugby players seem to thrive the most coming in on special teams and doing their work, carving out a role in that way. But again, with the rugby skills and the speed that he has, he's clocked at some really fast times in the rugby league he was playing in last year. Will they use him on offense a little bit more? I don't know if you'll necessarily put him in like a Taysom Hill sort of skeleton key role, because doesn't quite have the versatility of that sort of player. But do you run him on some of those, like, hey, get creative with it, like Travis Kelce tried to do last year on like one of the coolest plays of all time that didn't count because Kadarius Toney was offsides. Travis Kelce catches the ball down the field, is about to get tackled. He throws it backwards like 40 yards to the sideline to Kadarius Toney, who runs it in for a touchdown. Maybe you have a little bit of a variation of that play where, someone catches the ball down the field. Louis Rees-Zammit is kind of just, lurking back behind him, waiting for the offload. Dude offloads it. Maybe Louis Rees has a bit of a breakout, gets another like 20 yards off of that or something like that. This could be a tool that changes the game a little bit. We'll see how they use him. Historically, rugby guys have been kind of, special teamers, returners, all that sort of stuff, and usually haven't necessarily cracked the starting lineup in a lot of places. But I have a lot of faith in Patrick Mahomes. I have a lot of faith in Andy Reid's mind as an offensive guru. No two ways about it. He's one of the premier offensive play callers and play designers in all of football. I have faith in them to kind of, see what they got in there. Maybe get a little bit creative with the scheme. I think it could be, at the very worst case, it's a bust of a signing and no one really thinks about it. Best case, it could be a really fun pickup. So I'm looking forward to seeing how they use him. I'm very interested to see if Andy Reid can kind of crack the code to make him into a productive NFL player. Could certainly add something to the offense if that is the case. Also, love to get a Welsh accent in the locker room. No one's going to know a goddamn thing that dude is saying, and I can't wait. I can't wait for the interviews. All right, so we got 2 more headlines for you. First and foremost, let's get the legal troubles out of the way. Rashee Rice, allegedly, and this is all alleged right now because I don't believe he has, certainly hasn't been convicted, so it's all alleged right now. Reportedly, in Dallas, Texas, a Corvette and a Lamborghini were street racing on I-75, I believe it was. The street race doesn't go well, ends up in a 6-car pileup. Someone goes to the hospital. Luckily, no one has major injuries, it seems like. Thank God. Could have been a whole lot worse. Turns out, I believe it was the Corvette was registered in Rashee Rice's name. And both drivers of the Corvette and the Lamborghini fled the scene. So, yeah, there's a lot going on there. I believe that the Dallas police I don't know if they have arrested him officially yet at the time of this recording. He's probably going to go in at some point. Rashee Rice has retained counsel. So, yeah, it's a situation that could have been a whole lot worse, but it seems like there will be legal ramifications coming from this. And, yeah, thank God it wasn't a whole lot worse. That could have been a real tragic weekend between that whole situation if it would have gone worse, and Vontae Davis coming up on a Monday morning. But thankfully it wasn't. Where it stands though, man, this is a big time dumb move. I just don't. I mean, I get it. He's like 22, 23, something like that. He just had a breakout season in his rookie year of the NFL, won a Super Bowl, all that sort of stuff. He's living life, living large after that rookie year, going back to Dallas. Yeah, you may remember SMU, where he played, I believe, is in Dallas. I want to say it's either in Dallas or in Houston, and I apologize if I got it wrong. I think it's in Dallas. So going back home, hanging out with friends, all that good sort of stuff. As a young person, a formerly very young person, this was just a few short years ago. I too was 22, 23. So I understand. Us younger people, we have a propensity to do dumb shit. That's, hey, hand up. Been there a couple times. Haven't gotten in legal trouble yet. Hear that, knock on wood. But yeah, this is just something you can't do, especially when you're the only real receiver on the outside that the Chiefs can trust right now. It's not a good look, and obviously could have really endangered some people. Obviously did endanger some people. Someone went to the hospital. Could have been a whole lot worse than it actually was. But I'm interested to see where this goes. I assume when it's all adjudicated on the legal sense, there's going to be at least a fine, maybe a suspension. I can't imagine it's going to be more than one game, just based on the severity, the level of severity of it. It's a really bad look for him as a player, though, going into this offseason. Crucial offseason when he should be working his ass off to get better, because he's going to be the number one receiver in all likelihood next year, unless someone that the Chiefs draft ends up breaking out in a big way. So, I mean, I guess you can improve and also still be street racing. Shout out to the Georgia football program. But it's just not a great look, and it's just not, it's dumb. Frankly, it is dumb. And again, young people have a tendency to be extra dumb. I am still kind of on the young side. So I too, I mean, my prefrontal cortex is fully developed. I'm 28. If you didn't know, folks, the prefrontal cortex has to deal with the decision making and fully develops when you're 25. So, he's below the age of 25. His prefrontal cortex not fully developed. There's your little science lesson for you, a little neurobiology lesson for you on this episode. So yeah, that is all to say, young people do dumb stuff. Thankfully, it wasn't worse. I am interested to see where this goes from a legal sense, though, because there are some other things out there in this story that I'm not going to say here now, because it seems like it's all conjecture at this point. However, it is all to say I will be keeping an eye on the legal situation here, because this could go somewhere. This could go somewhere. I hope it doesn't, for the sake of the player and for the sake of the Kansas City Chiefs, that he's a fun player to watch. But it seems like there could be some stuff there if some of the rumors coming out are actually accurate. So, situation to monitor. We'll probably touch on that as it develops here over the course of the coming weeks, months, however long this whole thing takes. Alrighty, so we got one final headline here before I get you all on out of here. The New York Football Jets are trading for edge rusher Hasaan Reddick from the Eagles in exchange for a conditional third-round pick in 2026. It can become a second if he plays 67.5% or more of the snaps and has a 10-sack season this year. The Jets are all in, baby. This is an all-in sort of move. Frankly, it's less compensation than I thought the Eagles would get for no doubt about it, one of the best pass rushers in all of football right now. Coming off, I believe he had like 12, 13 sacks last year. Like, he is still at the height of his powers. And the fact that you only get a conditional third in 2026, again, you use the old Jimmy Johnson scale. You prorate that out. It's 2024 this year, 2026 in 2 years. Basically, you prorate out a round for every year in the future it is. That's basically the equivalent of a 5th round pick here in 2024. I just don't. I don't get how. I don't get how the Eagles couldn't get a better package for Hasaan Reddick, quite frankly. It is absolutely wild to me. It's an absolute steal for the Jets, unless there's just some injury information that the Philadelphia Eagles were privy to and the Jets weren't, which would be a scumbag move, but classic Howie Roseman sort of got you, a little bait and switch there. I don't think that is the case, though. So, for a very reasonable price for a pick that is far into the future, in fact, so far, I doubt Aaron Rodgers will even be your quarterback come that 2026 pick. This is a really, really good pickup. And it's like, essentially, they lose Bryce Huff in free agency. He goes over to the Eagles. Eagles end up sending Hasaan Reddick over. Essentially, you just upgraded at that edge position from Bryce Huff to Hasaan Reddick. And that's a defensive line that's already deep as hell. One of the big strengths of that team. They got a first-round pick last year in Will McDonald that hardly even saw the field, in addition to all the other guys they got coming off the edge over there. Also, Quinnen Williams in the middle. They've still got stars at every level. I mean, C.J. Mosley, obviously Sauce Gardner. That defense, once again, not the reason why they lost last year, will be a reason they win this upcoming season. They only got better this offseason. And, with all the moves that the Jets have done, investing heavily on the offensive line, investing heavily on the defense throughout the course of this whole thing, they're going to have to bring in another receiver or two in the draft, I would say, just kind of to fill the whole receiving core out. But you still got Garrett Wilson in there. It's a really good situation for the Jets right now. I think they really built up that offensive line to help out Aaron Rodgers. If Aaron Rodgers comes back and he is a reasonable sort of similar player to what he was before the Achilles injury, back when he was with the Green Bay Packers, this Jets team, they could live up to the hype that they had coming into last season. Make no bones about it. I think this Jets team is built to win this year, and I think they're going to make a push to do so. I think, again, if Aaron Rodgers stays healthy, this is a playoff team this year. No question about it, especially with the Bills in kind of a transition period right now. The Dolphins are kind of, shedding salary so that they can pay Tua at some points. The Patriots are bad right now. This could be a real opportunity for the Jets to come out here, maybe steal the division. If nothing else, probably get a playoff spot and make a push for it. Obviously, you still got to get through the Chiefs. That's a problem that everyone has right now. But man, they're putting together a team that could possibly do it, and I am really looking forward to seeing what this Jets team looks like. Hasaan Reddick is a huge, huge get, especially if you plan on playing from ahead, which, if Aaron Rodgers comes back like he was before the injury, you would assume you're going to be playing a lot of games from ahead. You got a nasty defense with a nasty pass rush. I'm looking forward to seeing, what this Jets team ends up being. And with that, I'm starting to burp here. So, I think that's pretty much it for this episode. Really short, in and out. That was disgusting. In and out sort of episode here, man. We got to a couple different things. Not a very eventful week. It was Easter weekend. I was out of town doing my own thing here. So, bear with me a little bit. But, it's an off-season episode. Some point here in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to end up doing a draft needs special sort of deal. Again, I got to check when the draft is. I think it's at the end of April, but I could also be completely wrong. I have next to no idea. It is what it is there. With that, thank you so much for tuning into Unqualified Analysis. We do this thing once a week during the off season of football and twice a week when college football comes back, NFL football comes back, and we are right back in the thick of things, man. I can't wait for it. Oh, man, it's going to be, another 5 months or so? We can wait that long. It's going to suck when the summer comes around, but we can wait. We got stuff to state our appetite right now. There's good sports going on, so we'll wait until then. Still one episode a week. In the intermediate time, those are words that were put together in a sentence. Anyways, if you enjoyed this episode, go ahead, subscribe, leave a like wherever you're listening to it, be it Apple, Spotify, Amazon, Google Play, I think we're on. I don't know, man. Just go YouTube for sure YouTube. go ahead, hit subscribe, share, all that sort of stuff. Help me grow this thing a little bit more. If you want to follow me on social media, I am at CalebVUA on the Twitters, formerly known as Twitter, now the artist known as X. If you want to contact the show, that's pretty much the best way to contact me too. Just slide in the DMs. They are open, folks, so I'm ready to see some weird shit. Go on ahead. Just don't send me cock pics. I cannot stress enough. Do not send me cock pics. I don't want to see that. But you know what? The internet's going to do its internet thing, so we'll see what happens there. Outside of that, if you don't want to go through the DMs, if you don't want to go through Twitter, hit me up on the email at unqualified analysis. I don't know who has the qualified analysis at gmail.com, but I have the unqualified analysis at gmail.com handle, so go ahead and hit me up there. And by the way, links to the Twitter and the email link will be down in the description as well, so you don't got to worry about spelling out either of those things. And with that, thank you so much for tuning in to Unqualified Analysis. I have no clue what I am talking about as per usual. One thing I learned this week, though, broccoli is named after the family that brought the vegetable to the U.S. Members of the same family produced the first James Bond films. Fun fact for you. Anyways, I will see y'all next week. Y'all have a good one. I will talk to y'all on Tuesday. See ya.